Hello and welcome to Japan Expert Insights and our Business Insights Room. Every Thursday, Tim Sullivan and I, Mai Matsuoka, lead a discussion looking for insights, developments, and new opportunities for the business in Japan. In this podcast, we welcome comments, questions, and opinions. So if you haven't done so yet, join us next time. In the meantime, you can find us at japanexpertinsights.com and our YouTube channel, where we upload all the conversations on Japanese politics, business insights, and the role of Japan in the Indo-Pacific region. So it's once again Thursday morning here in Japan. I hope that everybody who was here last night in Japan, is safe. You, your families, your properties as well. We had an earthquake. Thankfully, it hasn't been so damaging as the previous, the big one, 11 years ago. And today we've got a very special guest, DC Potter, who initially reached out to Tim. Thanks to that, we got connected on LinkedIn first and then here. So DC Potter is, I said he's a very special guest because he is an entrepreneur. And so he has started 2 startups and taken them to successful exits. But in addition to that, recently, several months ago, he also started a new initiative, which is called Japonica Publications. It is a publication which is all about Japan, different aspects of the country, of its people, its language, its history, its traditions. And today we're going to talk with DC about the publication. Of course, if you have seen the title of this room, it is Can You Make Money by Writing About Japan? So we know that there are many people who want to read and many people who want to write about this beautiful country. And of course, there is always a question. We live in the era of content creation, and everybody says content is king, but even if you create content, sometimes it's really difficult to monetize that content. It's difficult to get paid for it. However, DC has found a way to do that, and even though probably the money that is earned there is not that much, it is still one option of being paid for what you write about. So DC, shall we start?
Yeah, maybe a 自己紹介 would be a good start.
ポーターです。よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
If you could see me in person, you'd see me bowing as I said that because I'm on the phone. Thank you for that great introduction. I feel honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Tim, for writing for Japonica. So I want to talk a little bit about Japonica today and why it exists and kind of introduce it to everyone. But our topic for the day is how to actually make money with content creation for writing about Japan or other content about Japan. So I'm hoping other people who are in the audience here, and I know Michelle is going to join us in a little bit. We'll talk about not just Japonica, but other avenues, other publications, other ways of monetizing content about Japan, because we like writing about Japan. We love Japanese culture. We love what's interesting about it. We love, I love sake, and I want to tell the whole world about sake. So I want to write articles about sake because I can't go out and drink with everybody. So I want to write articles talking about how wonderful sake is and how why I this one more than that one and so forth. So I want to write articles and I want people to read them. And if I can make a little bit of money on the side as part of that, even better. And that'll pay for me to buy some more sake to be able to write more articles about it. So let me just give you a little bit of background about why we created it and what we're doing and a favor I have for all the people listening here. So first, there's the old way of making money writing about Japan. You write a book about Japan. And I did that. Some of you may recognize my name as the person long ago who wrote the book Kinky Japanese, title book, which was later republished as Colloquial Kansai Japanese. And it's published by Tuttle. You can buy it at the bookstore. There's probably a Kindle version now, and I get a little bit of royalties each time. It was a lot of fun to do, and I'm proud of it. It was 25 years ago. But there's and that still works. Tuttle's still happy to publish books about Japan, and now you can self-publish. So I've been coming out of the startup space, where I've been working with a lot of startups. I ended up writing a lot of articles for startups to give them advice because they all had the same questions and the same problems every time. So I made my own little blog, and nobody read it. The only people who read my blog were the people I sent the links to and said, you need to read this article. And, I kind of build up my readership through LinkedIn and other places. In the same way I found Tim's articles about Japan, which I love, love, love. I would, try to find people to read my articles about startups. And I was paying for my own WordPress site. And then one day somebody said, well, why don't you put it on Medium? I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. What is that? So I go look it up. And there's like a million articles there about everything. Like, oh, this is interesting. So I put my articles up there. And pretty much the same people that found them on my website found them on Medium, because the only way they were going to find them is if I sent links to people and said, here they are. And then a publication that put out articles about startups on Medium found one of my articles and said, could you, would it be okay if we add your article to our publication? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? More people read it. So suddenly I went from having 10 readers a day for an article to 2,000. I'm like, wow, okay, this is the way to do it. Yeah. I don't have that many followers, but they have 200,000 followers or 500,000 followers. So when they put it out, people actually read it. So that actually started getting me a lot of readers for my articles, which was the whole point of writing them, was to have readers for them. But I also wanted to write articles about Japan. That's one of the topics I like writing about. I thought about doing my own little blog, maybe the same sort of thing. So I started writing articles on Medium, but I had the same problem. I could put them up on my LinkedIn page or Twitter or something, and nobody would find them. And I looked for a publication that would have readership of people interested in these things. And there wasn't anything. I mean, there's thousands of publications on Medium covering everything from, health to crypto to memoir to fiction to poetry to photography to startups. You name it, there's probably 10 publications for it. There was no publications about Japan. And I was talking with another writer who was writing about Japan. And we were both writing for this one publication that's kind of a very general publication, but they had a writers forum and we were both on there. And we were like, well, why isn't there a publication for Japan so we can have all of these articles in one place and help publicize it and get readers, get writers to put it there, and so that readers know where to find great content. And we're like, well, if it doesn't exist, we'll have to do it. Fortunately, it's not very difficult. So we're like, okay, let's make our own publication. Let's call it Japonica. So that was Yuko and me. And so we put it together. And like a day later, Alvin pops up and says, thank God somebody finally did a publication for Japan. And we're like, yes, you want to write? Yes, let's join in. So since then, we've put it together. We do 1 or 2 articles a day. And I've been out recruiting writers because we need great content. And that's where I reached out to Tim. I've always loved his articles. I said, Tim, really, really, really want to have your articles on Japonica. Would you mind contributing? And I've been so lucky that he agreed and even brought me on the show to help try and find more readers and more writers for it. So let me just circle back to how you make money on Medium, since that's the point of this discussion. Medium pays a small amount for each subscriber who reads your article. And I don't know how many subscribers they have. It's a lot. But, if you write about crypto, you can, there's a lot of people writing about crypto, but if you write a popular article about crypto, it'll get, 100,000 readers and it can generate some significant revenue. If you're writing about Japan, you're probably getting a few hundred readers and it'll generate a smaller amount of money. But still, it's nice to get paid for the articles. And it's better than, it's easy to put them up there. You don't have to pay for a website. You don't have to pay for a blog. It gets it distributed and you get readers. And then, hopefully you get, people read it and some of them are subscribers and you get paid a bit for it. The one tricky part that they've just added is before they'll start paying you as a writer, you have to get 100 followers. And that's kind of added another layer of complication. So for all the people who are listening in here today, I have a favor. I would like you, right now, to go to the Japonica page. And the easy way to get there is to just Google Japonica Medium. It'll take you to the main page. And then find the articles by, there's an article near the top called The Heroes of Mizuhama, or you can just click through from the LinkedIn site where Tim was on there. And just click on his article, and then on the side should be a button that says follow. We want to get Tim to 100 followers. Then he can start getting paid. And you don't need, so we get paid based on the number of subscribers, paid subscribers who read it. But the 100 followers do not have to be paid subscribers. So all you need to do is sign up. You don't need a subscription. It doesn't cost you anything. And then you can follow writers. And I'd love you to follow Tim. If you can follow our other writers as well, like Diane and Jamie and Kyoko, you can help them get to their 100 minimum as well. That would be really greatly appreciated so that people who are writing for us can start making a little bit of money for their articles. So that's kind of the big introduction. What else would you like to hear at this point, or what other thoughts do people have?
Well, first of all, thank you for explaining that. Very, very well done. Thank you for trying to get me up to 100. I'm at 27 and going. And just so everybody knows, I just do it for the fun, and that's my motivation. And, it's more like if anything else comes on, then that's extra, that's icing on the cake, But if you like what you read over there, again, DC explained how to do it. And, I also want to say, since I joined, I've been reading Diane and Jamie and Kyoko and Yuko and DC and all their articles and Alvin. And they're great. It's a really, really good publication. So anyway, thank you for that. So now just to kind of switch gears, I just find it very interesting how certain people's minds work. And you said one thing, DC, that kind of resonated because it's something I also noticed about Mac, who's in the audience. And that is you have a knack for finding something that isn't there. And what I mean by that is you finding a hole in the market to fill. So in Mac's case, it was English reviews, I think, and Mac, you can correct me later, of Japanese whiskey in English. There wasn't a lot on YouTube that he found, so he filled that hole. In your case, you came up with Japonica because you saw that hole to fill. So I think that's just kind of an interesting common point. And one more common point you have with Mac is he also loves to drink sake, and in fact, doing a really cool series on sake making. So everybody go over to his YouTube channel and click as well. So that's all. That was just kind of a few thoughts.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your articles, Tim. I loved them when you had them on your own site, and I really appreciate that you've added them to Japonica. I would like to invite everyone else here who likes writing about Japan to join Japonica as a writer. The process is pretty simple. You just have to sign up for Medium. Doesn't even cost anything. You don't have to be a subscriber. And then you contact me, say you want to be added as a writer. I add you as a writer, and then you submit your articles. We get them formatted, and then we post them. As Tim knows, there's a few weird things like how they want the photos to be and stuff like that. But it's easier than setting up your own blog site. So if you've ever thought about doing your own blog site and said, that's too much work and I'd have to pay for it, this is easier. And you can write about Japan for us, or you can write about other topics for any of the other publications, or you can just put your own stuff up there. You can keep your journal there. You can do whatever you want. It's just a giant blog of blogs. But as Japonica, as a publication, we have our own website, and then we help promote the articles to our audience. So, we add it to LinkedIn, we add it to Twitter, and then we have kind of a built-in following. So love to have more writers. We'd love to have more readers. And the other way to get paid on Medium, once you get to the 100 followers level and you join their paid program, if other people sign up with after reading your article or using your referral link, you get half of their subscription fees. So it's $5 a month. It's not even very much. And then if you sign up, say, as a referral from Tim would get paid. It's after the fee, so it's like $2.27 a month for each person who signs up as Tim's referral. So that's the other way you can make money on Medium as a writer, is by attracting subscribers.
Well, thank you for that. And you told us how you came up with the idea of Japonica publication, and how you are now looking for writers. And I have probably the next logical question is, what direction do you want to take this Japonica publication into?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when Yuko and I started it, we said, well, it's about anything about Japan. And it could be, it can be writing in English, it can be writing in Japanese, it can be a mixture, it can be about language, it can be about culture, it can be about politics, anything you want that kind of fits in with the broad umbrella of Japan. And we're still thinking it's that way, but we're also watching very closely what sorts of things get readers. What are the readers interested in? And it is tended to be the obvious sorts of things of Japanese culture, more of the interesting stories about life in Japan and about existing in Japan, and like Tim's article today about dealing with a Japanese boss. Those tend to get the best reception, the best readership, especially if they're kind of humorous and fun to read, as opposed to, here is... I'm trying to think of a good example, but the kind of stuff you can find in Wikipedia about, just explainer about Japan, or, what is the 5 best sites to see in Osaka sort of thing. That doesn't get as much readership because there's a million places people can find that. The other thing we found that's interesting is most of the writers are English native speakers writing about Japan. Most of the readers are, the majority are Japanese, who want to read articles in English. It's not 100%, but there seems to be more Japanese reading the articles than other English speakers. So we've seen less interest in articles written in Japanese, and more of just stories about life in Japan has been the most interesting. But, we're willing to publish anything as long as it fits in the model, as long as it's good. It's about Japan, it's good writing, it's interesting to read. We're happy to publish that, and we'll see if people want to read it or not. The great thing about our site, unlike a published magazine, printed magazine, is space is free. We could publish 10 articles a day. We could publish 100 articles a day. It wouldn't matter. If people read it, great. If they don't, it hasn't cost us anything. Before we get too far into this, I promised Michelle, who had she's the editor of another magazine, a chance to speak and talk about her magazine, and hopefully talk about what it's like to write for that magazine, and whether you get paid as a writer and what the process is and so forth. So, Michelle, can you talk about Tofugu?
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. I hope everybody can hear me okay. This is my first time ever using Clubhouse. So.
Perfect.
All right, great. So, hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Fuji, and I am an editor for Tofugu. If you're unfamiliar, Tofugu is a language and culture blog that was started back in the early 2000s, and it has a counterpart of an SRS system for learning kanji and vocabulary in Japanese called wanikani. So they kind of sort of go hand in hand. At the moment, Tofugu is expanding its language and culture blog and welcoming new authors, new writers, in the freelance sense. So essentially what we have here is if you're a native English speaker or somebody who has near native fluency in English, you would write articles on a topic that you would pitch to the editor-in-chief, and then they would sort of help you go through the content development phase of outlining your article, and once it goes through several rounds of editing and review, then you get published on the blog. And the difference between Tofugu and a platform such as Medium, like DC was just explaining, is that Tofugu system works more like a company. So you would be hired as a part-timer, and then you would get paid by the hour for your writing. Typically, writers are paid $40 an hour. They will give you a time limit for about how long they can budget for you to do your research and drafting of your article. So there is a limit. It's not just unlimited $40 an hour pay. But yeah, it's a really great company to work for. And right now we're actually looking for authors in several different categories. One is reviews. So a review category author would essentially take a language learning resource such as the Japanese Genki textbook, for example. This is something that we've done in the past, and go through it and sort of give a subjective, as much as possible objective review of how they felt that material would help language learners progress. What are the pros? What are the cons? Another thing we have is Japanese language category author. And this is somebody who would ideally be a native Japanese speaker or somebody who's near native and maybe has teaching experience. So this person would be writing articles for Japanese language learners, people who Japanese is their second language, and they would go and they would write on a specific grammar topic or some sort of idiom or phrase and sort of write it up in a way that makes it really, really clear and easy for people to learn just by reading the blog. We also have a Japan category author opening right now, and this is somebody who can come in and write on Japanese cultural topics. What Tofugu isn't, this is important to note, it isn't a travel blog. So it's not somewhere where you come in and say, oh, you can take this great trip out to Hakone and take the ferry out and do this, that, and the other. It's not that. It's more of geared towards people who are hoping to or are living in Japan for a significant period of time. So maybe somebody who is teaching English here, or maybe somebody who's chosen to make this their forever home, and sort of writing articles in a way that introduces something interesting and fun to explore in a useful way. So, for example, how it is to ride trains in Japan and things you want to look out for and things that might be important to you, like getting an Ikoka card or a Suita card. So things of that nature. But we can also do things like writing about literary figures and helping people learn how to read in Japanese. So there's really a broad range of categories here. And if you're interested, maybe I can ask Maya or DC to look it up and send the link to you. It's TOFUGU, tofugu.com. And there's a jobs category way at the bottom of the website that you can click on and sort of read through the descriptions for the types of people they're looking for. We do hire multiple people for different categories as long as somebody's the right fit. And the other thing about Tofugu to note is that the overall tone is sort of friendly and casual. And what they're looking for is somebody who can draw readers in and make them feel like they're really having fun and enjoying what they're reading. So it's okay to be silly when you write for Tofugu. And that's actually something that's really encouraged. So if it sounds like something you're interested or something you'd like to do, you can reach out to me through LinkedIn. My handle is my name. It's Michelle Fuji, MICHELEFUJII. There's 2 I's. Or you can send a message to me through Tofugu. There's a contact form at the bottom of the website. Oh, okay. And I see in the websites there up for you. Thank you so much, Maya. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Oh, Michelle, that's so. When I listen to the needs and I look into this audience, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but you know who you are. There's some really, I know Maya will back me on this. We have some really talented writers in the audience who write about exactly the topics you were mentioning, specifically the language, the kanji, other parts. Maya, your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. So if everybody who is in the audience, actually, if you are willing to come up here and join us in the speaker's corner, please come up. Please connect with Michelle, with DC, with Tim, and with me as well. Yuka, hello. Thank you for coming up.
Good morning, Yuka, and thank you.
Good morning. I'm your 28th follower, Timothy.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So Michelle, I am not a candidate for your site. However, I'm curious, and pardon me for asking, but I have been in a financial industry for many years than I like to admit. So how Tofugu make money?
That's a great question. There's lots of different ways we make money. So as a dedicated website, everybody who comes in and reads the blog, we're making money off that. I'm not sure what the specifics are there, so I'm sorry I can't really answer in that respect. But Wanikani is the big money maker for Tofugu. So it's free up to a couple of levels, so people can sort of try and test it out. And then they sell monthly or yearly or even lifetime subscriptions for people who are really wanting to learn kanji, and that is the big money maker for us.
Okay, I asked because I couldn't see the the Prime membership or subscription. So I couldn't. Your website is actually beautiful, but I couldn't see the here, click here, so make become a subscriber. But you're saying that's your business model, the subscription. Okay.
Yes, for Wanikani, yeah. So for Tofugu is it's an open blog, and Wanikani is actually even a separate dedicated website from Tofugu, but they are paired. Yeah, it's the same company.
Okay, so I think it goes. You know what? I think Alvin is right there. So again, Maya, this is my. I always have multiple questions, but why don't I wait for Alvin to finish his question, and then if we have more time, let me ask a couple more questions to DC and Michelle. Thanks.
Thank you, Yuka, and welcome, Alvin. We meet at last.
And so, Alvin, before you start, I just want to say I invited Alvin to join us today because he's one of the most successful writers on Medium writing about Japan. And he's been doing this for a while. And his articles get quite a lot of reads. So we'd love to have not only introduce Alvin as one of Japonica's writers, but have him tell what his secret is to finding and drawing in readers besides being a really good writer.
Hi, DC, and hi, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes, sounds
Yes.
good.
Great. Yeah, this is my first time on Clubhouse as well, so I'm not really sure how this works, but seems pretty easy. So yeah. Yeah, as you know, there was a huge earthquake last night. Didn't really sleep well because I was actually sleeping in, and then I woke up and I couldn't go back to sleep. So it was terrible. But yeah, and it's strange, or should I say it's I wouldn't sort of characterize myself as a successful writer on Medium because I've only been writing on Medium for the last couple of months. I think I started writing actively in October. And when I first started out, I didn't really have this intention to write about Japan, actually, because it was kind of like, okay, I just found out about Medium. And incidentally, I found out because I kept, whenever I, read about articles and when I search for certain information, I kept running into Medium, and then I decided, okay, I'm just going to pay for a subscription. It doesn't seem very expensive. And that was like how I got started. And I didn't start out being a writer in a sense. So it was only a few months later on that I discovered that, okay, maybe I could like write something as well. And that's how I got started. And somehow along the way, I thought like, okay, maybe I could write something about Japan. And my first article was actually not on Japonica, because there was no dedicated publication focusing on Japanese culture or things about Japan. And I think that was called, I titled that Love Japan, 5 Reasons Why You Might Regret If You Move to Japan, or something like that. And it was crazy because I got like over 3,000 views. And again, I must caution that 3,000 views is not really a big deal. But for me, I had no sort of publishing experience. And I went from like 10 views a day to like 3,000 views. Of course, this didn't happen like overnight. Obviously, it took like a couple of months to get to 3,000 views. But I was pretty surprised, and I think why this did well was because I think like as DC mentioned earlier on, it was really about giving insight into the reality of life in Japan. And I think a lot of people, maybe outside of Japan, have this sort of romanticized notion that Japan is like this beautiful country. It's high tech. It's there's like beautiful temples and like Shinkansen and I don't know, like ramen every day for lunch or something like that. I don't know. So a lot of people have this sort of misconception about Japan, or like this romanticized or like idealized version, like view of the country. And I think when you create this like reality versus expectations kind of content, it tends to attract a lot of readers because I think like that's the kind of controversial content that tends to attract a lot of people. And I also wrote another one called what's the title? I think it was called Japanese Salarymen Sleeping on the Streets of Tokyo. Guess why? And at first that didn't do very well because I wrote that using a different title. And one of the good things about writing online and on Medium actually is that you can basically edit your articles anytime. And then so I edited that article. I gave it a new title and I put it on Japonica. Because that was when Japonica just got started, and I said like, okay, well, I already have an article, so maybe I could just put it there and see what happens. So I made a few like cosmetic changes, and I extended that article a little bit, and it just went up to like 3,000 views again. So again, it was, I think I wouldn't call it clickbait, but I think in the world of online writing, you need to give like the audience something like interesting or something, a reason for people to want to read your story. Like, why should I be interested in your story? What can I learn from this? Is it going to challenge my expectations? Does it give me like something like to look forward to like reading? So I think like when you say like, oh, Japanese salarymen are sleeping on the streets of Tokyo, you kind of go like, what's going on? Because maybe like for some people that are not familiar with like salaryman culture, they might be surprised that people get drunk and like to one of these like company nomikai, and then they fall asleep on the streets of Tokyo. And this is like something anyone living in Japan or like in Tokyo, we witness that, right? So just writing about these weird things about Japan, and of course I don't want to like perpetuate certain cliches or like stereotypes, but I think playing on this sort of stereotypes of Japan does get some views because it's what people know of Japan, but at the same time you want to go beyond those stereotypes and say, hey, this is why it happens, and I can tell you why it happens because I have an insider's perspective, and I know that because I live in Japan and I've worked here for 5 years and I speak Japanese. So I think what really gives people like us an edge in writing about Japan is really this sort of insider's perspective. But at the same time, I mean, like, I'm not Japanese, obviously. So at the same time, we're not really Japanese ourselves. So we kind of like straddle. We're sort of inside Japan. We're also like outside of Japan. So I think this gives us this strong leverage to think about what could be interesting to a non-Japanese audience, and sort of like talk about that in an interesting way. And ultimately, I think writing any kind of story is really about telling something interesting, and what that might be really depends on what you experience. And I think Medium is great for that because there are lots of people, they all have their own perspectives, their own backgrounds, and I think it's great that we can all leverage that to tell something interesting and unique that, so for example, I think DC was in, so basically there was this special feature last week about the Fukushima, accident or the incident 11 years ago, and there was a call for submissions from Japonica, and I think there were about 6 submissions, and everyone wrote something pretty different. I think it was pretty interesting because even though it was the same topic, everyone had their own viewpoint, their different stories to tell, and that was pretty interesting for me as well because you kind of experience what different people write about, but from a different point of view.
I just want to say, Alvin, I'm a big fan. I think you're a great writer, and thank you for everything you're putting out there. And Mac, you're up on stage. Thank you for coming.
Anytime, Tim. Always an honor to be part of this great group of people. I'm just really interested hearing what all the speakers have had to say today. But one thing I really want to know is Medium. The Alvin mentioned, for example, his 3,000 views, and we've had some other metrics from DC as well. But what can a writer expect? If you throw something up there, what can you expect numbers wise in terms of 1,000 views or 3,000 views or whatnot?
I'll go ahead and take a shot at that, and Alvin, maybe you can jump in afterwards with your experience. It obviously depends on the topic. So my articles about Japan can be anywhere from 100 views to, I think my biggest is 5,000, which was about Mugicha and why I switched from Diet Coke to Mugicha, and suddenly I had hundreds of people a day reading it. It was, I don't know where they're coming from or how they're finding it because it's not from my usual channels. And I'm having something similar with an article I wrote a few weeks ago about why Japanese is one of the easiest languages to learn, and I'm getting a few hundred views, like 250 views a day over the past week or so. So it gets up to the 5,000 range, but kind of the base is around 100. I write one article about startups and one article about Japan a week, and that ends up generating typically around $300 a month. So, it's not going to pay my mortgage, but it does buy, a few nice bottles of sake a month. Alvin, what's your experience? Because I've seen, as the editor, I get to track the views on Japonica. I know you do writing outside of Japonica as well as I do. But your articles tend to track higher than mine. That you get in general more views. I'm interested how and what you see as typical both on and off Japonica inside Medium.
Yeah, hi DC. Thanks. Yeah, as you might have realized, I'm not a very good speaker. I think I probably write better than I do speak because pretty nervous. But yeah, I think from my experience, it's actually very difficult to judge. It's very random sometimes, and I think that's probably because it's online writing, and you don't know exactly what will do well and what will not do well. So I think at some level it becomes like this game of publish more and then see what works and then double down on that. And to that kind of I've like one of the reasons why I keep writing about Japan is that I have noticed that my articles on Japan tend to do better than the other kinds of articles that I write. And so I would say, at least from my experience, like if I can get about 3,000 views, I think that's a pretty good goal. It's not amazing. I mean, I think like on Medium, there were some articles that got like more than a million views, and I think it also has to do with what kind of audience is on Medium, and I may be completely wrong, but I do get the feeling that a lot of the readers are from the US. So I think I don't know, like from I think a while ago, I think a lot of articles were about politics in the U.S. and the pandemic in the U.S. and these articles tended to get a lot of views from what I could see in any case, because you could see you see the claps and the comments and like all of these so-called top writers on the platform. They were getting like hundreds and thousands of followers, right? So I think that probably if I compare my own performance to those writers, then it's not really a big deal. But if I can get like say a couple of thousands of views, I think that's not a bad performance at all for someone who is pretty new, I would say, to the world of online writing. And if I had like written the same thing somewhere else on like a WordPress blog, not only would I have to pay for fees, I probably wouldn't get like 10 readers, So I think, I think that gives you the opportunity to really put yourself out there and really get yourself read. And I think that's what every writer wants.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. No, so how you guys drive a traffic to a Japonica? Like, so in other words, I'm asking, are you guys tracking SEOs and Google? Like, maybe some people, let's say, by the way, I read this, Japanese salaryman sleeping on the street on Tokyo, but, I'm a Japanese and it's actually quite painful to read this because Japanese men don't sound too happy about their lives. But anyway, so like how do you know those like SEO? How does it work? Like people like typing Japanese salaryman like sleeping on the street, and how they stumble on your the site, or they know what kind of article they can expect. So the regular readers usually visit and look for some interesting article they can find on that day.
So one thing Medium does not give us, unfortunately, is very much analytic information. We can see who are subscribers versus non-subscribers for our articles. We can see how much traffic comes from on the site versus off the site, but that's about all you get. So you can't really see whether somebody was coming in searching for particular things in Google, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'll say some amount of the traffic is our own followers. So once you follow somebody, and especially if you follow somebody and it gives you an option to get an email whenever they write. So if there's somebody that you really like reading, like Tim, every time, once a week he puts out an article, you get an email, you click on the email, it takes you to that particular article. So that'll be some amount. There'll be some amount of, we try to do what we can to publicize it as well. Both on Twitter, we always, every time we have an article, we try to promote it. We promote it on LinkedIn. The individual writers will also promote their articles on, to their network, whether that be LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or wherever they have people that like reading their stuff. So that's some of it. Some of it are people who just read Japonica, and that's why we do promotions like what we're doing today to introduce the world, so we get more people looking at Japonica on a regular basis. And then some of it is tags within
text or keywords. Oh,
well, they're like keywords, but they're not quite. So they're called tags.
Oh, tags. Okay.
Tags. When you sign up for Medium, it asks you what topics you're interested in. And you can pick things like Japan, you can pick things like cryptocurrency, you can pick things like sports or politics. And whenever something fits one of those tags, and you get to set the tags yourself for your article, it will show up in the feed. So when you log into Medium, and it'll also, when you just go to the Medium site, or if you sign up to get a newsletter from them, it will give you a list of all of the articles that matches those tags. Medium will also add you to tags. If you start reading articles about, about Trump, for example, it'll automatically say, okay, this person likes reading about Trump, and then it will start adding those to your feed, and you will see those. So people who either sign up for a tag of Japan or Japanese culture will get our articles. People who just end up on those by, because they've read Alvin's article, will then it'll say, oh, you probably like Tim's article too, so it will show that in your feed. And the more you click on those, the more it shows up at the top of your feed. And so it's kind of its own little world, and it decides what it thinks you're going to like, and it tries to get you articles that fit. And so the tags become pretty important. That, okay, so if you're writing for Japonica, you want to tag for Japan or Japanese culture. But if if the article is about Japanese language, also put a tag in for language. Or if it's about mugicha, then okay, put a tag for coffee and tea as a category. And you want to try and get into as broad categories as you can that people are following. So that's a good way to get in front of all of the people who aren't specifically looking for your articles. It's not so much that it comes in from Google. Now, if you're writing something that's kind of an information article, like the 5 best sites in Osaka if you're a tourist, it'll get cataloged in Google, and Google gives Medium articles a pretty high ranking. So that will show up. And I think one of my articles on pitch decks, on Tam Sam Sam, is a very specific topic of Tam Sam Sam. So if you go looking for Tam Sam Sam, you'll actually find my art on Google. You'll actually find my article in Medium that way. But that's kind of unusual unless it's a specific content with some keywords.
Okay, before handing over my, mic to Seiji, I like to say thank you, because anything and anybody and, any articles who are attracting interest, attention to Japan I really appreciate that. Thank you. And by the way, the Japonica is a great name.
Well, thank you. When are you going to write for us?
How much you pay me? Oh, just kidding.
Tofugu will pay you $40 an hour. We'll pay you 2 cents per reader.
I think I would get like 3 followers. Anyway, thank you.
Good morning, Seiji. Thank you for coming up on stage.
Good morning. Good evening. I'm calling from Chicago, and it's fantastic. Been a fantastic conversation. I've actually been looking forward to this all day because it's almost 7 p.m. here in Chicago, and I saw DC's LinkedIn article saying that this conversation was happening today. So I've been looking forward to it. In fact, DC and I know each other from our days at UCLA back in the early 90s. So we've known each other a long time. Question for you accomplished writers, DC, Tim, Alvin. I'd love to write an article, and it would, and my motivation wouldn't necessarily to be paid, although that would be nice. Having $300 to buy sake on a monthly basis would be terrific. But my question is, if you're a first time writer, and you've not really done much writing for a wide audience, how do you go about knowing whether something that you write is worth turning in? Do you just ask people to read your writing before you submit it to Medium or any other site?
Seiji, that's a great question. DC, very quickly, let me just say, I have absolutely no idea what's going to fly when I publish it. And the articles I've written that I did kind of last minute off the top of my head on a whim, sometimes those go crazy. And others that I wrote thinking, wow, this is going to go gangbusters, and it falls flat. And I still haven't figured out the secret sauce to what is going to work. As Alvin mentioned, though, the titles are like really important. And one of those silly, whimsical articles I wrote was titled, "Don't Marry Tim, He's a Casserole." It rhymes with casserole. And that thing went gangbusters. I just thought it was a little silly thing that I wrote. So I haven't figured it out. Alvin seems to have a better grasp at it, and I'm sure DC has some ideas too.
Yeah, I guess it's about just writing what you want to write about, right? And maybe perhaps not worrying so much about how it might or may not be received. Just put yourself out there is what I think I hear you saying.
Yes, exactly. And I think you'll find, there's some people in Medium who are writing because they want to be writers and they're trying to make money at it. And so they're going to write about politics, they're going to write about cryptocurrency, they're going to just pull things off of the news and Wikipedia. And they're trying to be writers. Most of those articles are completely boring and uninteresting or people who don't know what they're talking about. And I think for everyone else, it's a blogging platform. And write what you want and, don't worry about other people, and hopefully people will read it. If they do, great. If they don't, you haven't lost anything. But if you want to know if it's a good article or not, or how to edit it, then bounce it off of a few other people, and maybe do a couple drafts. That's just kind of writing. If you want to bounce it off of me, I'm happy to do that. I'll look at an article and sometimes say, I like it, but it needs a little bit of shaving, or it doesn't quite fit in with what Medium or Japonica needs. Happy to do that. And your question reminded me of one other thing I wanted to mention. A lot of people are writing on Medium, including me, to promote other things. You really don't get paid a lot on Medium. You either do it because you love it, or because you're promoting something else, or both. And I'm happy to have, when you get to the end of the article, say, if you enjoyed this article or you want to learn more about this topic, come look at my company, or come look at my blog, or come look at my other materials. We've been trying to do things like doing book reviews of other writers who write about Japan to help publicize them. So we really want to be not just a printed publication of good articles, but a community where we're all helping to promote each other. And that goes beyond just our articles to everything else that we're doing. And happy to use those articles as a way of promoting yourself or your company or your book or anything else you're doing.
I have a technical question, and maybe the question, maybe not so much to you, but to Alvin. Alvin, I gather that you're based in Japan, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes, so my question is about how do you get, the amount of money you get paid? Do you use your Japanese bank account, or do you have an account out of Japan?
No, I actually use my bank account in Japan, and I don't know if DC mentioned this, but the way that Medium pays you is through Stripe. And Stripe is based in the US, I believe, and only some countries are eligible for Stripe. This means that, unfortunately, there are some countries at this point that if you're based in, then you're not actually able to get paid by Medium. But luckily, Japan is not one of those. And I mean, I could have gone with my account in Singapore, where I'm actually from, but I actually did that for a while, and I realized that I needed to pay 30% of my income in taxes to the U.S. government as tax withheld. And I did some research and realized that if you're based in Japan, if there is like a tax treaty between the U.S. and Japan, which to avoid like double taxation. So I switched my account to Japan.
Yeah, that's useful information. Thank you for it. So DC, if you can add anything to it, or anybody else, please do.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity to introduce Japonica and some of our writers. And I, again, ask everyone a favor of going to the website and even without signing up as a subscriber, click on follow of our different writers so that they can get to their magic 100 number and be able to get paid. And if you're interested in writing, we would love to feature you as well. So just reach out to me.
Well, thank you so much, DC. The intention of this room was to promote you, but I feel like you promoted me. So thank you very much for all the kind words. But yeah, all the writers are really great, and hopefully you guys will go over there and follow them. But thank you, everybody. I really had fun today. This was a really good, fun discussion.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, DC, for all the details. Alvin, thank you for letting us know how you approach writing. And so Mac and Yuka, thank you for the questions. Seiji, your questions too. So it's 9:00 now. This is when we wrap up the room and say goodbye. Many thanks to everybody who joined us as a listener today. Of course, I encourage you to reach out to everybody who is in the room and find them either on LinkedIn or here on Clubhouse, and also go to Medium. Yes, also and Medium as well, so that you can get in touch. And if you're interested in writing about Japan, please do that and go about it. So thank you, DC, once again.
DC, I'm sorry. Are you on Akaoni?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I just have to ask that. Thank you so much.
Yes, that is exactly what I look like. Seiji can tell you, because he knows me in person.
Great.
Well, actually, I think the Akaoni thing is a lot cuter than you really look, DC.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt.
That's true. I'm more of the angry Oni in real life.
Oh, okay. Well, so we wish you great day. Enjoy Thursday in Japan, or have a good night in the United States. And then with this, we hope to see you again next week on Thursday. Next week, we're going to talk about, that's Web3 and the metaverse, probably, blockchain, and it will be just the beginning of a series, I believe. Well, enjoy the rest of the week as well, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming and staying with us today. We will be on air next week on Thursday at 8 a.m. Japan time again, so join us. Until then, you can find us at japanexpertinsights.com and our YouTube channel, where we upload all the conversations on Japanese politics, business insights, and the role of Japan in the Indo-Pacific region. If you want to stay informed about our upcoming events, you can follow us on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, we're looking forward to your joining us next week. Until then, stay well and make the best of the day. See you.